The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. When the angels went away from them to heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go then to Bethlehem to see this thing that has taken place, which the Lord has made known to us." So they went in haste and found Mary and Joseph and the infant lying in the manger. When they saw this, they made known the message that had been told them about this child. All who heard it were amazed by what had been told them by the shepherds. And Mary kept all these things, reflecting on them in her heart. Then the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all they had heard and seen, just as it had been told to them. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Well, Merry Christmas. Yeah. I apologize for my voice, a little bit too much Christmas reveling, I think, but all the same, we'll push through. Yesterday, I had to laugh because the postman arrived bringing all sorts of Christmas cheer and cards and things, and I was sorting through it all, and in the midst of all of that on Christmas Eve, this showed up in my mailbox. It tells me to order your Easter eggs now. Easter is April 16. Thank you very much. I'll get right on that. How many of you will be here for Easter? We'll take a count and get this taken care of. Thank you, Sunny Bunny Easter Eggs. That's right, sunnybunnyEasterEggs.com. But, 5% off until January 17. I'll take advantage of that. But after laughing at this, I realized this was maybe a lovely reminder for me and for us, because we really have something wonderful that is happening today. I mean, not only are we keeping the solemnity of Christmas, the feast of God becoming a human being, the nativity of Jesus, but also this year, it happens to fall on Sunday. And that doesn't happen every year. And while we may celebrate Christmas once a year, we as Catholics celebrate the resurrection of Jesus every Sunday. That's what we do in this place every Sunday. We celebrate his death and resurrection. Easter has been called a large Sunday. Sundays have been called little Easters. So even today, while we keep the Feast of the Nativity of Christ, this is also for us a day when we recall the saving act of God in the death and resurrection of Jesus. So it's almost like our entire faith is laid out before us. So I'm not sure what to say. Hallelujah, he is risen. Happy birthday, Jesus. Happy birthday, Jesus. That's, last night for our 4 o'clock family mass, this place was packed. Right now it looks empty compared to what was here last night. Hundreds and hundreds of kids bouncing off the walls, bouncing off the ceiling, bouncing off of each other. It's actually a great blessing and very reaffirming of my call to celibacy to have them all here on one night. But I talked with them about the birthday of Jesus, because that's definitely something that a child can relate to. They all have birthdays. They all celebrate those moments. They know something of the joy and the fun. And talking about the birthday of Jesus with a child, I think is a great way to introduce this feast we keep this day. But it's so much more than the birthday of Jesus. For those of us who have grown a bit, we can really take some time to reflect about the fact that what we celebrate is the incarnation. Not just the birthday of Jesus, but we celebrate that at some point, God chose to become a human being. That eternity stepped into time and manna became a man. The incarnation. You may or may not be familiar with the Pew Research Center. The Pew Research Center, despite the fact that they have the name Pew in their, or the word Pew is in their name, which sounds like it's all a religious thing, it's not. They do a lot of studies and polls on things religious, but things cultural, things political, and their work is really, really excellent. And 2 days ago, they re-released some results from a survey they had done in 2014, I think just because of the time of year. But the survey they shared once again revealed that Americans largely believe that, as they say, elements of the traditional Christmas story reflect actual historical events. So, for example, 81% of Americans believe that Jesus was laid in a manger. 75% of Americans believe that Magi, guided by a star, brought Jesus gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. 74% believe that an angel of the Lord appeared to shepherds to announce to them the birth of Christ. 73% believe that Jesus was born to a virgin. And when you take all four of those things together, 65% of all Americans believe that all four of those things happened. 14% of us say none of those things happened, which I guess leaves like 21% wondering what's going on anyway, right? And that's all wonderful. And part of the joy of the day and the romanticism of the day, part of the feeling of the day are shepherds and angels and mangers and kings and animals. But I wish the Pew Research Center had asked Americans this question: do you believe that God became a human being? Because that's where the real action today lies. That's where the real adventure begins. All the other things, shepherds and stars and angels and kings, those are all minor bit players compared to the real action of this day. So that's really the question. Do you believe that God the Eternal became a human person, a human being? Or is it just a nice story for you today? A good thought kind of makes you feel warm. Or do you believe that honestly happened? Because if you do, or I don't know, this may be the first time you've ever actually had to seriously consider the question, it can be unsettling, off-putting, maybe even scary to think that God would do something like that. 2 days ago, I was forced to laugh again because right now BBC America is playing, they've had like 3 or 4 days of what they're calling a Who takeover. Not like the Who's down in Whoville takeover, but Doctor Who takeover. And I've had it on while I've been doing stuff for Christmas, getting ready. And there was this one episode where Doctor Who ended up on a planet where they were going to sacrifice a little girl called the Queen of Years to their god, to keep their god happy. Well, as it turns out, of course, the god wasn't really a god at all. The god was simply an ultra-powerful alien. But when they finally made it inside the temple, there was the ultra-powerful alien sitting on a chair, sound asleep, inside a big glass case. And what made me laugh was there was a monk there who was like tending to the god, responsible for caring for the god. And the monk was chanting, "Please do not wake from your slumber. Please do not wake from your slumber." Because usually when gods wake up, they get really cranky and human beings suffer for it. I mean, think about the mythology we know from the Greeks and the Romans. Whenever the gods in those mythologies paid attention to humanity, it was really at humanity's expense. They tormented humanity, they tested humanity, they teased humanity for their own entertainment. I mean, it was like the release the Kraken kind of thing, right? It never worked good for us. And so humans were really good with, let us appease the gods and keep them far away, because when they get near, it gets really ugly. But that's not our God. He doesn't come to torment or to tease or to entertain himself at our cost. He comes to show us how much he loves us and cares about us and wants to redeem us. And so when he comes in the most innocent and inoffensive, vulnerable way. He starts his great adventure as a human being as a baby who can really make no claims on anyone, who can just take the world as it is and as it comes to him. Later, as an adult, to become a figure of controversy and challenge even to people today. But he comes just as a child. Of course, in the gospel, Luke wants us to know, and the shepherds to know, and everyone reading right away to know, that this is not just an ordinary child, but that this child is, as the angels announced to the shepherds, Christ the Lord. So the angels announce at the beginning of the gospel what humanity, the disciples, will only realize at the end of the gospel when they encounter the risen Christ, the resurrection. The resurrection gives them the ability to look back at the life of Jesus and say, oh, that's what he was about. That's what he meant. That's what this is all about. I don't know about you, but when I was a teenager, my family always went to midnight mass. And I enjoyed it very much, but there was always an element in the mass on Christmas that bugged me. And it was this, and I'm about to do it in a couple minutes. The priest would, after talking about the birthday of Jesus, go to the altar and start the Eucharistic prayer and say things like, on the night before he died for us. And I was like, really? It's Christmas. What a downer to be talking about this kid getting killed. But if you think about it, a lot of the prayers we're going to say together soon reflects that. A lot of traditional ancient Christmas carols have some element of that reality in it. And as an adult in faith, I get it now. It's because you can only really understand the child Jesus when you know what it is he's going to do. It's like any birthday. I mean, when you celebrate birthdays in your family or with your friends, yes, the fact that your family member or friend had a historical birth is important. That's why you gather that day. But even more so, in celebrating their birthday, you reflect upon what they've done in their life, who they've become, and what they mean to you. So it should be with this Feast of the Incarnation. A chance for us to reflect upon not only that Jesus was born 2,000 years ago, but what he did, and what he accomplished, and who he is to us, what he means to us. Because if you believe honestly that God chose to become a human being, and that at some point, that human being came back to life, it changes everything. C.S. Lewis once said this about the faith of a God who becomes human and then comes back to life. He said, Christianity, if false, is of no importance, and if true, of infinite importance. The only thing it cannot be is moderately important. Moderately important. If you believe that God became a human and that Christ after death rose to new life, it's not just an interesting part of life. It is ultimately important. As I said to some of the folks who are here every week with us a couple weeks ago, we have to remember that when God came to earth, he did not come as a religious system. He did not come as a philosophy. He did not come as a concept for us to debate and ponder and wonder about and pay attention to only when it's convenient. He became a person to be enjoyed and to be loved and to be followed. If you read the scriptures honestly, I think they simply tell the story of God trying to show us how much he wants to be our friend. And that's it. That's it. And that no matter what we have done, no matter where we think we stand in relation to God, he welcomes us. He welcomes us back. He welcomes us in. He wants to be our friend and will do that in any way possible, as long as you want to take him up on it. That sounds pretty remarkable to me. That truth of a God becoming human because he wants to be my friend guarantees us a pretty spectacular and Merry Christmas. Not to mention a Happy Easter.